Hi, my name is Bopha,
And I'm Sully.
and today is our first day that we're recording our first podcast. It is called The Gardening of Storytelling. And my hopes with the gardening of storytelling is that we are able to be vulnerable and talk about stories that we've experienced in hopes that it can relate to some of what you're going through. And Sully and I are big gardeners. We like to spend a lot of time in there. And while we're in there, we're always reminiscing about things that we remember from our childhood with, parenting, all these things that relate to life in the garden. And that's how I kind of came up with the title. And I'm excited to get started in sharing a lot of our stories. So
She's super excited, y'all. So I'm just here to lean on her and let her be the showrunner on this.
yeah. So let's, today what we're going to talk about is childhood. I want to ask you a few things, Sully. It's crazy because, okay, so a little backstory. Sully and I have been together for 19 years and married almost 17 years in July. So for us, I didn't know Sully as a kid, but I always envision him as a kid with the stories he shares with me. And
Look at our kids.
and then then when we look at our kids, we have 4 children. We have Sullivan that is 13.
Yeah, 13.
Maxwell is 11, and then Campbell's 10, and then Valentina is 8.
Yes.
So we have 3 boys and then 1 girl. And it's really interesting to see our children and then see ourselves in our children. And then the characteristics that I don't have, I'm like, oh my God, that's my kid? Because then that's actually Sully. Like, okay, now I know how he is as a kid. So
Yeah.
yeah. So for you, Sully, what do you remember most about your childhood? Like 3 ways to describe yourself as a child. Like,
You want the truth?
I want the truth.
Bad. Bad. No, seriously. I was probably one of the baddest kids, but it had to do with curiosity. So I was always curious, and I questioned everything. I didn't care what it was, authority or rules or,
Yeah.
I was always told, you can't do that. You kidding me? I can't do that? Okay, I'm going to
You're
do
still
that.
like that.
Yeah, that too. So, and then also I would just say that I was always loyal as a kid. I think and anytime I had a friend, that was my friend for a long time.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So loyal,
Bad.
curious, and bad.
Yeah, I was bad, man.
Okay, give me some examples of what bad meant to you.
Dude, I'm going to give you this one time, or a group of kids. I was probably 5 years old, I think. And I remember going to the QT that was on the corner of, I think it was Guthrie and East 14th. And back in the days, there used to be cigarettes that, where the candy bars are at right now? And it'd literally be like 10 of us, all the neighborhood kids. And we'd all go in there, all 10 of us. And each kid would go grab a candy bar first or something that we're going to purchase. And then we'd all line up in a single file line. And the last kid would be at the end where the cigarettes are at. So as soon as the first kid was buying something, the last kid was taking the cigarettes and passing it up.
Oh
So
my
by time the second or third kid got to paying for their stuff, they had cigarettes in their back pocket, and they would walk out.
How old were you?
I was 5, I think, at the time.
No
But
way.
Yeah,
5?
for sure. I was probably 5. We were probably hanging out with like some 8 or 9-year-olds, maybe some 10-year-olds. So yeah, we got down. It was. I mean, that was probably one of the. As a child, I couldn't picture my kids doing the same thing right now.
Oh gosh, no, absolutely not.
But yeah.
But that it plays like a role in
But
like
that was
the
different
environment.
times.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's
the
different
environment
times,
is
yeah.
very different.
Can't do that now. You get in trouble, go to whatever, juvenile hall. I mean, back
very
then, they're
different.
like, if they caught us, which they did catch us eventually, like, oh, those kids were good.
Yeah.
But then they caught us.
And back then too, like I felt like our parents didn't have a lot of resources to put us in activities where like now
Right.
our kids are busy all the time. They don't even have time to go like do certain
Right.
things,
I mean,
right?
it's because my parents were always working,
Yep.
and we just didn't have the resources as kids to be able to be in activities or
Yeah.
things of that nature. It just wasn't there. It's again, it's different times. I don't expect our kids to ever have to do that, nor would I want them to do that. I mean, they'd be catching some ass whoopings for me. But let's talk about you. What would you say? Three
Three things about me
things
as a
about
kid.
you as a kid.
I was shy, scared, and probably protector. I think so and it kind of
Pretty much all the opposite of me.
very, very opposite of you. I was really scared of everything. I remember being scared walking on the bridge to go to the Asian market with my mom because she didn't drive, and we would go. We lived on it was Harding Road at the time, and we would walk to the market.
Yeah.
We would have to cross the bridge over 235, and I was scared shitless. Like it gave me butterflies. Like it made me anxious, but I didn't know what it was. And I just remember like them like never consoling me. They would just take me, and I'm like,
Asian parents.
And then it also translated to when we would be in our car and we'd go over the bridge too.
Right.
I would also get those butterfly stomachs like feeling, and I didn't know what it was, and no one again consoled me. So when Valentina, remember when we used to go to preschool on that ramp on 235 near East, and every time we'd go on there, she would like panic, and then she would get so scared and she would hold us, but I understood her because I had those same exact feelings as a little girl, So it's just interesting to be able to understand what I went through, but at the time, like no one was trying to console me at all.
Right.
And being scared of like cops, like I was so scared of those lights. Like I know, very opposite of you, but like we had a house fire, and I remember the cops came, and I didn't want to talk to nobody. They had to interview us, and I didn't feel comfortable talking to a police officer.
Because there's authority.
Yeah, authority. Yeah. Anybody in uniform. I was really, really nervous,
Yeah.
So, and then protector, I think, because I have lots of nieces and nephews. I had older siblings that were always getting in trouble. And so for me, I always felt like the need to come and protect them and like stand up for them, even though I got my ass whooped in the middle of it, But I would say those three things would definitely define who I was as a kid. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never would have thought the protector part, but
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
And I can see it.
I can remember like a story, like, okay, going back, like being a children of immigrants, right? Our parents didn't know a lot of things that we went through, you know, as new kids going and, living in America. Like when I think back to like kindergarten, for instance, before kindergarten, I didn't even know English. And I remember my brother, when my brother came home from school, he's 2 years older than me. He'd come home and he'll start speaking English, teaching us what he like learned. And I remember like, what the hell? It sounded like this.
Yeah, it does.
And I remember trying to like do the same thing he was doing.
Yep.
So it's me, Pana, and Sam. Those are my niece and nephew that lived with us. And we would pretend to talk to each other and be like, blah, 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 because that's what
I actually told on Mock and Moy one time. By the way, that's my brother and sister. And I was a kid and did the same thing. They were talking in English and I was like, what are you guys talking?
Yeah.
Then they started laughing. So I was like, I'm going to go tell my mom. These fools are talking gibberish in this house. And I was like, okay, let me go tell my mom. And literally not until later when I realized, they were speaking English.
Yes. Because my native language is Khmer. And so that's what I learned, and for me, like a little backstory on that. So I'm the youngest of 8 kids and I'm the only one born in the United States. And so in our household, the rule was that you spoke Cambodian in the house and then you could speak English outside the house, and so that's how I'm able to know the language. It's not the greatest, but I understand it quite a bit and I can speak it, I can hold a conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going back to my childhood regarding having parents that are immigrants, they just didn't know the lifestyle of like what life is like in America, because where they went to work, they worked with other immigrants,
Right.
so they weren't exposed to what other cultures were like. For us as children of immigrants, we go to school, we go to church, we go to all these things that exposes us to a different environment than what we're used to inside our home. And I think that is where my curiosity started. Like, and one thing that I always wanted to be was white. And I didn't understand at the time why I wanted to be a white person, but that was I remember that feeling so much. But now that I'm older, it wasn't that I wanted to be white, but I didn't know how to translate it.
I think you're trying to say like more, you're trying to be submerged in the American culture, right? Because we're so used to watching certain things on TV and whatnot. Yeah.
Yes, I would watch TV and I'm like, wait, their parents talk to them. Why can't I talk to my parents? You know? And that's part of the reason why I want to start this podcast, is to be able to inspire people that don't have that the ability to have those conversations within their own families. I want it to be where you feel comfortable, and who's going to break the ice in doing that? Someone has to, right?
Yeah, I think it takes a different generation to try to take the lead into this, because we are, a first generation, I'd say per se Americans. When you talk about our parents being immigrants and having the capability to relate, well, like you said, kind of going back, we have older parents and having older siblings. These are all able for allowing us to relate and go back and discuss some of these things that we talk about, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to be open up and say, hey, you know what? Let us discuss some of these things so that we can better educate not only our children, but the people around us to really dig deep into themselves and say, hey, we could do this. We could talk about this, and it's okay. We're not going to get,
our ass beat.
Yeah, I can get ass beat.
Because back then, like, it's crazy when you think about the Asian culture. It was normal to get like beatings, like if you did something, like that was normal.
Yeah, it was normal, very normal.
Yeah, so I remember like my brother, he's 9 years older than me, and he played soccer on his high school team, and his friend's dad would always come over to kind of like, have conversations with my parents. I remember one day, I don't know what the beef was about, but my brother and my mom and my dad, they got at it. And I think my mom came after him, right? I remember just diving right in there. I pushed my mom aside. I was like, don't touch him. And then I remember getting hit.
Man, you're brave.
Oh, I did that for a lot in my family. I can remember so many incidents where that's what I mean by the protector, or like if someone's getting in trouble, I'm always like, but you don't even understand. You don't have no idea what they're going through. And of course, in the Asian culture, talking back, like that is disrespect, right?
There was no protection in our house. If one got an ass whooping, everybody got an ass whooping.
See, yeah. And so so growing up, I always felt like, I just observed a lot and been able to just really, really see my family dynamic. And then as I've gotten older, to be able to analyze it and come to an understanding of why my family is why they are the way they are, and I have a lot more compassion from it, because I can see that they come from a place of hurt, a place of trauma. There's a lot of things that I couldn't understand. I remember them trying to tell me stories, and I'm over here like, yo, we've been living in America forever. Like, I didn't realize that when I was in kindergarten, that my family's only been here for a few years. I mean, think about it. They came in December of 81. I was born in 83.
Yep.
So like and then when I go to school, I'm seeing all these people. I'm like, well, why are we so different? I don't get it, like, and I didn't know that there was another country they came from. I didn't even know what that country was. Right. I thought that this is just our house. Like, this is where we've always lived, Well,
yeah, so, you don't know any better. No. It's just like the kids. They think internet's everywhere, right? They don't know any better.
They really don't. They grew up in the world where internet was already existing.
It's part of their life.
It's part of their life,
Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So just taking myself back to my childhood, just not understanding where our families came from. Like, I know they tried their best to teach us, but I couldn't take myself there. I had no idea what they were talking. I was actually, I was actually really confused. So my mom had me at 43 years old. Okay. So my dad was 48. Okay. So growing up, I had all these people around me. I have 5 older sisters that they're like the oldest one is 26 years older than I am. And it seemed like they could be my mom. Like I felt like I had 6 moms. No, 5 moms. I have 4 sisters and then my mom.
Means you got old siblings.
Yes. And then I had 3 brothers, one that is older with my sisters. And then I had one that's 9 years older. And then one that is 2.5 years older than me. Right. So like at the time when I was like, before I started school, I was like, gosh, who is my mom? I don't know which one my mom is because my mom was older. Right. And then also she took in my niece and my nephew. So my niece is 1 year younger than me, Pana. And then my nephew, Sam, he's my age. We're only a month and a half apart. And I didn't see their mom around. You know, I thought they were my siblings, you know?
Yep.
So I couldn't grasp, like, and then there's this girl that would come visit. I didn't know who that was. That was my sister. That was my nieces and nephew's mom, you know? And so it was just really confusing. And then then my sisters would come visit because one lived in Arizona, the other 2 lived in Seattle. So when they came to Iowa to visit, I was like, who are these people?
Yeah, because you didn't even grow up with them, right?
I didn't know them.
When you think about that, it's like you knew only your parents. The same way that I think the only people that were living in my house were, I think, 3 of my siblings that I knew were my siblings. The other ones I felt were, just like you said, like a mom or a dad.
Or an uncle.
Yeah, or an uncle. I mean, literally, I'd go to school, like, who's that? I don't know. They're just somebody who takes care of me.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
Like, dude, my brother is 63. How old is your dad now? 64 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my oldest brother. And, dude.
And you are...
God, what am I? 41?
41.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, so I mean, we're talking about a huge difference in age, right?
Yeah.
So
it is really, really crazy. And I remember, like, anywhere I went, I would assess my environment, you know? And so, like, when people at school would, like, I have two brothers, I have 3, you know, whatever. And then I'm like, fuck, I have a lot. I gotta like eliminate some of them. Like, so I would start lying. Like I would leave the 5 oldest out because I'm like, they're too far out.
Because you're embarrassed. You have no idea, right?
Yes.
You're embarrassed. You're just kind of...
Because I was so different, you know? And so then I just only included Soka and Soka Kiri.
Yeah.
I was like, I have 2 brothers. And I would leave it like that. And so long. So if I lied to you, I am so sorry. I really do have a lot more siblings. And but again, it's like the identity crisis. Like you lose sight of who you are because you are different, and you don't know what you don't know, you know. And like, and my family, they would always, I would always ask questions. I remember my family laughing because I was like, well, who's my mom? Who's my grandma? All my friends had grandmas, but I didn't have one. Yeah. So I took my mom and was like, that's my grandma.
Yeah. I think after a while, like me, I've always knew like my grandma was my grandma. She took care of me. You know, my mom was always working. I knew my mom was mom because we discussed it in the house. They'd be like, I'm your grandma.
Yeah.
And that's your mom, but you stay with me, because those are probably questions as kids you ask quite often. Like, hey, what do you go through those things.
Yeah.
But it's just like our kids with your mom living with us.
Yeah.
You know, they know that that's grandma, even though grandma feeds her and feeds them and does all this stuff. But you still grow that adaptation where you're like, you're close to them in a way. But we explain it more differently now that we have the knowledge.
Yes.
You know, but I can say that I was very close to my grandma, but I knew she was my grandma. You know, she's still my second mom. You know, she still took care of me. She still fed and cared for me.
Yeah.
Did a lot of things for me. But, you know, and then as you go older, you still start to realize, hey, this is my grandma and this is my mom. But I think at a young age, yes, you do kind of get that mixed up and, you know, go down that road where you kind of have an identity crisis. But
yeah,
I would say overall for me, I experienced the same thing, but in a way where we discussed it a lot, and I knew that was my grandma.
Yeah. See, and I felt like my family, they joked a lot. So there'd be stories like, Cambodians were normally known to be a darker skin out of all the Asians, right? And, but my family's a little bit lighter skinned, except my brother Soka. So he's dark skinned. And I remember asking, why is he dark?
Skin pigment dark.
Yeah. Like pigment. Yeah, his pigment was dark. I was like, why is he so dark? I couldn't understand it as a kid. I actually was very curious, but I was more curious about people, not about things, but about people. And my mom and dad made up the story that his mom lives in California and they put him in the garbage and they found him. And I remember just crying my eyes out. Like, I was so gullible as a kid. And even now as an adult, because I was so sheltered. And we'll talk about that later.
Shit,
but
my brothers and sisters did that to me, and we didn't even have an alley. And they'd be like, "We found you in the alley." I was like, "We don't even have an alley."
So you knew that they were lying.
Liars.
See, for me, I was just like, I believed everything my family told me, and I think maybe that's why I have my sense of humor now, because we were raised on a bunch of jokes, and everything was always light, and so maybe that's why I'm funny.
You're pretty funny. What else you got?
What
else is going on?
Well, I was just thinking about our childhood I was just thinking about how different we grew up.
Yeah.
And how that takes us to like how we show up in our relationship today. So, or even just ourselves today, right? Like, how would you describe yourself now? Like, how would you, the 3 characteristics that you would describe yourself?
Bad. No, I'm just joking. I don't know. I would say that I've had a lot of life experiences because I was a bad kid.
Yeah.
So I went through a lot of things in my life early in age. So I would say that just having life experience in general has helped and allowed me to be the person I am today, because I've experienced so much, whether it be, whatever, relationship, problems with...
Yeah, because you're a wealth of knowledge, and I've always said that. Like, even though we're only a year apart, I've always said that I feel like we're 15 years apart. Again, because of where we come from. Like, you were out on the streets, like you were discovering, you were exploring.
Yeah,
I was so sheltered. I lived in a very strict household, and so. When I got together with you, you opened my eyes to a lot of things. Like, I was like, what the...
What was it supposed to mean? A lot of things.
Just a lot of things. A lot of things I didn't know, So all of my life, people would always say that I was ditzy. Oh my God, that's Bopha. Like, she's as Bopha-isms, But in reality, I just didn't have that exposure to even understand these things, And so, like, it's kind of crazy to even think about that. Like, where we come from and what we're exposed to sometimes limits us to our growth, and our discovery.
Absolutely agree with that.
So, yeah. But anyway, so what's 3 things that, how would you describe yourself in 3 different characteristics today?
I would say today, I'm still loyal. I'd say that's one of my...
I would agree.
I'd say that's actually one of my good qualities and also one of my bad qualities, because sometimes I don't know how to let go of things that need to be let go because I'm too loyal to it. I'm loyal to the idea, or I'm loyal to
people.
What it's brought to me, for people, everything. I mean, just having loyalty can be good and bad in some ways, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'd say I'm definitely a self-starter. There's things that I don't allow a lot of things to get in my way. And I mean, whatever the reason, being outside effect, I just don't allow it to enter my space.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that I'm trying to get accomplished is normally going to get
You're
accomplished.
zoned in.
Yes.
Yes, you're very, very zoned in. Like, we work from home and you can not even hear a thing from anybody. And like, for me, I get so distracted so fast,
Yeah, I wouldn't say, there's not a lot of things that can distract me if I'm really zoned in. If I really want to get something done, I can do it, right? So, and I mean, if you're hearing this, then, and I haven't answered a text message from 2 months ago, I'm sorry.
Zoned in.
I'm zoned in. So, and then I would say, most recently, I I can't even think of a third one. I mean, give me that question again.
3 characteristics how you describe yourself.
I already said loyal. I've already said go-getter. And I'd say as I'm coming into age now, I'm really just coming to the consensus of myself of like just being present. Again, the zone in thing, that's kind of a good and bad thing because it's always a double-edged sword when you talk about strengths, right? To me,
Yeah.
it could be good at times,
Yeah.
but it could be bad at times.
Yeah, that balance and like being able to have that, to know, like you said, know when to let go, know when to keep things, and
Yes, there's. I mean, again, so that's
in
kind of
moderation.
that's kind of what I look at as every strength has a weakness.
Yeah.
And if you understand that every strength is a weakness as well,
Yeah.
the more and more you can find yourself and say,
Yeah.
okay, I can adjust when I need to adjust.
Yes.
So I would say this third characteristic of me is learning that this last part of my life is that what I feel is trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see that more in me where I can say, you know what? That's me
Your
doing
body's
something wrong.
or your body's telling you, you know what, you're not 20 years old anymore.
Yeah.
You need an end time. Because as long as I've known you, like he has no end time to work. Like whatever you do, it's like the moment you get up, you go straight into it, and then you don't turn it off until night.
There's no such thing as time.
So yeah, I think, and now you're just like, gosh, my body can't handle it. I hear you say that because we do home renovations too.
Yeah.
You used to do a lot of it yourself. Now you may still do a lot yourself, but I think you have a time limit. Like you're not there all night. You're not pulling an all-nighter, like you actually stop. But the one thing that you have not learned to do is eat. Give yourself that time to eat,
You're right. I'm hungry right now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So I think like knowing to feel your body.
Yep.
When you're feeling depleted or low on energy, I think that's important.
Taking breaks. Yeah. I think that's important. I mean,
from anything, like, see, and then there's me, I cannot focus. And so I'm taking breaks constantly, know?
it's good to take breaks. I mean, I think growing up, that's just, you're not at least for me, I've always been the shortest. I've always been the smallest. I've always been all these little things, right? I'm always the littlest. I mean, they call that little man syndrome, right? So
Short man syndrome.
Yeah, short man syndrome. It's the truth because you're always last, right? Everybody's always making you to be like you're not good enough.
Yeah.
So the only way to get ahead is to do more.
And to prove yourself.
And to prove to yourself that I am more, I am better, I am faster, I'm at all these things, right? And as you continue to do those things, it just becomes second nature. Now it's second nature. I don't think about it. If you say, hey, I can run 10 miles faster than you, I can't even, in my mind, I'm always thinking in my head like, oh, okay.
That's a challenge.
That's a challenge.
Accepted.
Right? Yeah. I'm with it. And so that's even me talking to myself. Like, even if I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, what? I can't do that? Who said I can't do that? Quit playing. So, yeah. What about you?
Gosh, what am I today? I don't know
What's going on in your life today?
Well, today I would say that I'm a very compassionate person. I'm very and a very emotional person. And so for me, trying to learn how to balance that and control my emotions, because I have a hard time reeling that in, so if I'm feeling something majorly, I am like, tears are flowing, me. It's just like, it's unstoppable.
I'm sure a lot of people will get to know you on this podcast soon.
Are those our kids? Should I yell at them real quick?
You got to send a text message.
I sent it to them. Sorry, this is
Or you can be like, shut your ass up.
Can I call out to them? Would it be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey guys, we're recording. We need you guys to be quiet. Because we can hear everything.
Can't even fart. We can hear you fart.
Sorry guys, that was I knew that was going to happen. We can't really get rid of our kids during a recording, so.
All right, continue.
But yeah, so I would say I'm compassionate. I am.
I'd agree.
What else am I? I'm a loyal person too. Like I stick with things for a very long time. Well, some things, but like loyal to people. That's like the one thing that I feel that I'm really good at. And then I think I'm learning, actually, I'm not great at yet, but I'm beginning to, is giving myself time.
Yeah.
Like that is something I just started this about December of last year. So, giving myself time, because I've always, the way that I grew up, I was always taught to care for others, put others first, and being a mom of 4 children and being the youngest of 8 kids and the one that knows the most, and a lot of nieces and nephews. When things arise in life, they come to me, and I feel like it is my duty to be able to provide that support or do the things for them, but not realizing that sometimes I don't have that in me, and learning to be able to have those boundaries and being able to put myself first so I can be a better mom, a better daughter, a better sister, all these things. Because I caught myself a lot, like lately, was I would flip out. Like I've overextended myself, and then every which corner someone needed something from me, Mm-hmm. So guess who got the wrath of it? Like you and the kids, like it just, and my mom, because she lives here with us.
I pay no attention to the wrath. I don't let that shit bother me.
Yeah, but I didn't like the way I was feeling. And so like for me, I made a change where I was like, okay, where's my energy at? My energy was in the morning. So then I started waking up early in the morning. Before I would wake up and I'll lay in bed because I'm like, oh God, it's too early. Like I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So now I get up and I go straight to working out. I give myself that time. I come back and I read, and no one's here. Everyone's here, but
I used to wake up and see it like this.
Yes, I was on the phone and just scrolling.
It'd be like right here.
Because I'm blind.
Like, what is she doing, dude?
I'm so blind, and my eyes would be like this because the screen would be.
Get your ass up and go do something. Then why are you laying here? Your arm. And she's always complaining about her arm hurting. I was like, you know why your arm hurts? You're holding a goddamn phone. And your arm is hurting because you're holding the phone too much.
Gosh. So I just started getting up and I started doing stuff for myself. And oh my goodness, has it changed my life? Like,
yes,
it has been so amazing. And this is partly why the podcast has even started too. I wanted to be more of a doer, and not of a dreamer. I've been a dreamer all my life. And so doing the things that I dream about to become a reality has been something that I didn't think I could ever do. But what I needed to do was take care of myself first before me to be able to see all my potential. I have so much potential.
Well, I think people don't do things because they're afraid of what the hell someone's thinking or what's going to happen.
I don't care about that no more. Like I don't, or the fear of like a failing, or what is everyone else going to think about this? Not everyone's doing this, but I've come to realize that I've been different all my life, and I gotta like use that to my advantage, right? And
who cares what anybody thinks?
I know. It took me a long time. When I first started dating you, remember, again, from where you come from, you never care what anyone thought of you.
How could I? Grew up with shit. I couldn't think about it. I didn't care what anybody thought. I had no choice.
Yeah, and I
had no choice what anybody thought about me.
And I had a lot of choices. And so therefore for me, it was like everyone was in my life, whether they are neighbors, whether they are in the community, whether it is a family member, everyone had an opinion about me. And I felt like I had to live up to it. So then as I've gotten older, I realized I'm just a people pleaser. Yeah. I didn't please myself. I pleased everyone else,
That's the problem with society in general, right? People always want to judge, before even judging themselves. But when you have no choice, literally, I had no coat. If I didn't have a coat, I had to go to the Lost and Found. What was I going to do? Figure something out? And no, I went to the Lost and Found, and I didn't care if I had mishmatching gloves or a hat. Let's keep it real here. You know what I mean? Like there was no choice. So as you learn that as a child, that I couldn't make a choice. So either you like me or you don't.
And it explains why you are a problem solver, because you solved problems yourself since you were little.
You have no choice.
Like with me, I lived in a village of family members. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone was supporting each other. So it didn't leave me any ability to problem solve on my own. Someone's coming to rescue the day, and we'll talk about that even more in some of the other podcasts that we'll discuss about who we are today.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting when you dig a little deeper into where your childhood stems from and who you are today and who you will become later too, being able to identify those things that makes you who you are can really help, grow you in ways that you never even saw exist. Like I always say, I'm a late bloomer. I'm a very late bloomer.
Yep.
And, like in the garden, I mean, think about all the flowers that, that we plant, and you think about which ones come in the spring, that comes in the summer, that comes in the fall. They all have different growth rates, but they all become beautiful flowers, you know? And I think that for me, I've learned that everyone's growing at different rates, different paces, and different routes too. We're not all going the same way. And that's the beautiful discovery of it, And I love looking back into my childhood and thinking about all the people in my childhood and where they are today. It's the coolest thing. Because we're all in different places in our lives, but when we get together, dude, it's like we were never like ever separated. We're still kids, and we crack up about the same things, Like a lot of us really, I mean, who we are when we were little, we are still the same, Yeah,
a lot of it you keep. I mean, the zebra doesn't change its stripes, right? So I mean, that's kind of how some things that you learn as you grow, And again, everything is like you said, nobody is in the same spot. My life is not your life. Your life is not my life.
No.
Same with you and I. We're not.
Oh my gosh, we're on different wavelengths.
We're two different lives.
Yeah.
And we so happen to make it work in a relationship, in a partnership that we have as a husband and wife.
Yeah.
And as parents.
Yep.
And I think that if you can understand that and be less judgmental of each other, then can you really be open to what the hell is going on in your life, right?
And being truthful to yourself, right?
Facts.
So that you can help grow. Because without being truthful to who you are, you'll never grow. You'll be living in a life where
you're always worried about what somebody else is
you're
thinking.
living for other people when you need to be living for yourself,
Either you like me or you don't.
Yeah, and I
love
you.
me or you don't.
Yeah, and I love you.
I'm going to be the badass.
Yeah.
Child that.
So when your
I'm just
kids
joking.
decide to be badasses.
And you know what? And I have been giving them. That's the thing about my kids. I have been giving more options because here's the thing: you want to be a little unruly. Hey, I'm gonna let you make that option, but accept the consequences that come with it, right? And that's what I'm really focusing on these days is with the kids.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, dude, you have an option. You want to do this or you want to do that, but I'm gonna let you know each one has its own consequences.
Yeah,
whether your life goes this way or that way. And the more and more I give them those options, I'm loving it because here's the thing. They already know the outcome.
Yeah.
So they tell me, oh, you know what? I should have went the other way. Exactly. Now I'm giving them their own choice, their own free thinking, their own free will. I'm not thinking for them like, hey, don't jump off that tree. You're going to break your arm, right? They're already, now I just put a thought in their head that they might break their arm. So instead I'm like, go ahead. You want to jump off that tree? You'll find out what happens.
And I did that a lot with our oldest, Sullivan. Yep. And I think that's the reason why he's a little bit more cautious. But now he's starting to change and shift a little bit because he is 13. Yep. So yesterday we were going to our neighbor's son's birthday. He's 2 years old, and the three youngest wanted to go. And then our oldest was like, well, I really don't want to go. And I was like, are you sure? It's like, it's his birthday. It's his second birthday, And like for me growing up, I had no choice. Like if my parents are doing fundraising somewhere, I have to go. If I attend anything with them, I'm sitting right next to them. There was no like, go find friends. There was none of that shit, And so for me yesterday, I caught myself doing this. I'm like, are you sure? Like everyone's going to be there, And he's like, he looks at me. He's like, Dad said I have choices. And I go, yeah, Dad did say you have choices. And he goes, and I really don't feel like going to a 2-year-old's birthday. He goes, but I do like him. And he goes, now I feel kind of bad. And I was like, no, don't feel bad. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I was just wanting to make sure like your answer is, I made him second guess.
What's great is this. He's got his own free choice. So if he does feel bad, but then he knows like he made that choice. Now he's gonna be like, okay, maybe those choices make me feel bad and I shouldn't feel that way or I should feel that way.
Yeah,
right?
because
like,
I probably made him second guess. I'm like, are you sure you don't want to go? Like everyone's gonna be there, And he was just like, I just don't want to go. And that, again, every day when I'm interacting with the kids and I talk to you and I'm like, I'm learning so much about parenting. There's no handbook on it, and I always just take myself back to like my siblings, right? Like us having older siblings and then having a lot of nieces and nephews that are close in our age. We've seen the outcome, right?
Yep.
So we've been blessed with having that as our advantage, because before I used to be so embarrassed of my older siblings and then having to explain to people why my niece and nephews are my age, like it's just embarrassing, And now it's like I look at it and the beauty of it all is that they gave me so much life lessons, wisdom, life experiences that I could not pay to have from anyone.
No.
And this is the reason why I wanted to start this podcast, to be able to share it with people.
Yep.
So that way, if they're going through it, they know what we've, attempted. And
you were 8 years old and you were literally translating.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Colonoscopy.
Yes.
That's just what it was. So about shit that as a child, you're doing things that most people weren't doing. But that's why you see a lot of, children of immigrants have a little bit more information just for the fact that they are doing the go in between for their parents and for their siblings.
Even their community. I remember going for my sister to one of her pregnancy appointments, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're talking about, down there and private parts. And I'm like, I don't even talk like that to my siblings, but like having to explain that to them at 8 years old, things like that. It really changes your perspective. And at the time when I'm doing it, I never once thought how unnormal that was. Right.
Yeah.
But now that I'm here, God, that doctor must have thought, oh my gosh.
What defines what's normal though, right?
Yes, we don't know what normal is, right? And
your normal is not my normal. So everybody's normal is different.
And that's what makes perspective so beautiful, right? Because your life experiences is going to give you a whole different perspective. And I love, love, love that. Because I know when I first met you, you told me you had older parents.
Yep.
And I've never met anyone that was my age that had older parents. Like everyone had young parents, like that were my siblings' age. Right. So it wasn't that I couldn't connect with them, but it was always like, oh gosh, if you came and met my parents, like they're gonna like grandparents. And then I meet you, and then you told me you had older siblings. I was like, oh my gosh. Like I'm always looking for signs in life. And right there, I was like, I'm marry him. So you
do believe in a lot of signals in life.
Oh my gosh. They're everywhere. I feel like signs are just everywhere. So
yeah, I think we both have different philosophies of that, but that's your philosophy. And I appreciate that because it does try to bring some people who believe that you can control a little bit of your life and that you have the capability of, making things that you want happen. Again, going back to the doer things, right?
Yeah.
If you focus on doing and making things happen, then...
Or just even positive thoughts. I mean, think about it. Think about all the things that we could have been so ungrateful for, but they all turn out to be so beautiful and such a positive light because of just the way that we trained our minds to think, and the people that we're surrounded by. All those things matter, so
for sure.
Yeah. So
what else you got going on in your life?
Gosh, I don't know.
What do you need to discuss?
I don't know. What do you guys have?
I got some topics. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
by the way, this is my nephew.
It's a family business.
Richard's on the mic right now.
Okay, so there's this TikTok that's been going viral. It's a girl from Singapore. I don't know if you guys seen this. She went viral for buying a $60 bag, and she called it luxury. So a lot of people are, they're trying to clown on her, saying that's not a luxury purse. So I was wondering what's your guys' reaction?
Oh my gosh, what's crazy? I've been thinking about this a lot lately, about what luxury used to mean to me and what luxury means now. Luxury used to mean brand designs and all that stuff and all material things, like
superficial
high-end things, right? And honestly, luxury is things that you cannot buy, right? That's luxury to me. So like, it's a thought. When they say the thought that counts, really to me, that is luxury, because when you think about things that you cannot buy, or the meaning behind gifts, or the meaning behind anything, it doesn't matter if it came from Louis Vuitton or if it came from Target. Someone thought of you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I haven't seen this.
Oh yeah, it was from her father, and she was trying to explain like, we grew up poor,
Yes.
so you guys will understand. So it went viral. I guess the company actually they invited her and her father for a tour of the company, so that's kind of cool.
I love that.
No, I think that's super cool because again, it goes back to perspective, right? When you grow up with nothing, I mean, literally.
Yes.
When I say
it depends on what nothing is too, because
right, everybody's on a different scale of like nothing. When you say nothing, do you have any running water?
Yes.
Do you have to walk this? Everybody has a different perspective of nothing, right? And again, it's all in what you're living your life. Your life, everybody's life is different.
Yep.
And if you can accept that, right, and you can be in that essence of understanding, like, hey, this girl is saying that this is luxury, and that's okay, because in her perspective that is luxury.
Yeah.
And it may not be to somebody else, and to each their own opinion. So the person who says, hey, that's not luxury, that's their opinion. Let them think what they want to think. That's not right or wrong, right? Same thing with me, to me, if that's an empowerment for her or for somebody else to hear her story, and if other people, everybody has their own opinion, and at the end of the day, it's what you feel and what you do. To me, if I feel a certain way, I don't care what you feel. I feel this way, and I don't care what you feel. I don't care, like that's just how I feel.
And being someone like myself that can see all kinds of different perspectives of people's lives, I see beauty in that. Like I can see where she comes from, because I remember when I was sporting like it was like this purse that my mom got me when I was little, and I took such pride in it. So when we had a house fire when I was little, I went and saved that freaking purse. I went and grabbed that purse, and I loved on it, but I'm sure it was like probably only $5. But when my parents didn't buy us anything and they bought us that one thing, I fucking took pride in it. And then as I got older and started just spoiling myself and getting whatever I wanted, I didn't take pride in those things. I would throw it here, throw it there. And now that I'm back into, like, I'm not fogged up anymore, I'm like, oh my gosh, I took that for granted, right? Like now I'm in a different place in my life where I can afford certain things, and I want to take myself back to when I had nothing, and to really understand what that means and appreciate.
Well, yeah, I think people appreciate a lot more when you actually earn it, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's in anything you do. Think about someone who works out.
Yes.
You go to the gym every day. You get on the treadmill or you lift weights, and then you see your body change, and then people start to compliment you.
Yeah.
Again, you are coming from a sense of your own self-worth because you're doing something for yourself, and you're starting to see people, not only people take notice, but you take notice, right?
Yeah.
Again, you feel that you've done it. Now, if you just get on some steroids and get jacked up, and you don't really have to change your habit of eating or working out as much, and you're just going to take those movie muscles for granted, right? And that's just how this life works.
Yeah.
When you save up your own money to buy, you take a lot of pride in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, a lot of people feel the same way because that's what you'll see online, or that's what you'll see what people discuss or talk about. But you also have to look at it as from people who do come from more and come for more opportunity, where is given things, and some of them do feel the same way, and some of them can recognize that, and some of them don't. So I mean, there's all kinds of ways to look at things. There's always, again, we go back to perspective all the time.
And it just reminds me, we're realtors, and it's crazy because when we go look at some houses, I always say this, because sometimes in certain price points they're like, well, this doesn't have this or this doesn't have that, and I always take myself back. Well, like, who is the buyer? Like, are they coming from an apartment? Are they immigrants? Or who are they, right? And like for me, growing up in the hood, I had an older house, so when people didn't want to live in certain sides of town, to me it was an upgrade because I came from the hood. Yeah. So if I came to the south side, this is an upgrade, yo. I'm appreciative of it, But someone that grew up maybe on the south side all their life are like, oh, they can't wait to get out of here. Well, that was the same feeling that I couldn't wait to get out of the hood, because I was dreaming of that land of like beautifulness or opportunities, But then once you arrive to that spot, you start to realize that it's how you make of it.
It's all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah, it's
it
perspective.
really is. It's perspective.
It goes back to that, right?
It's interesting.
It goes back to that same thing. It's like, okay, how do you see this and how do you view it?
Yeah.
I, as a real estate agent, I personally have different views in regards to like what my job is for, being an advocate for my buyer or seller. I'm saying, hey, in this price point, normally this is what you see, even though they may think it's already an upgrade to have quarry on, right?
Yeah.
Versus having quartz.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, no, in this price range, it should have quartz.
Yeah.
That's where I say my job is at, right?
Yeah.
Like,
You're really good at that.
Even though they're happy with it. Yeah. Even though they're happy with it and they're excited about it because it's better than what they're coming from.
Yep.
They don't know what they don't know. It's my job to tell them what they, hey, you know what? In this price point, I'm not going to let you want to really make an offer on that because in this price point, there should be some, some quartz or some granite, right?
Or ask for a lower price.
That's my job as an agent. But again, that's not just
seasoned
perspective.
Agent.
That's more of like, hey, this is what I know. This is what I'm good at. This is what I do. This is why you hired me. You hired me to do this for you.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. Even though they are coming and saying, oh man, I'm coming from an apartment.
Yeah.
There's some cockroaches or whatever. So they walk about, girl, cockroaches up in here. So I get it. I just feel like as an expert in whatever you're doing, that's your job to kind of help people recognize that and see that.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. But how are we doing on time here?
We're good. I did buy some. I thought you guys could try some food or candy.
Oh yeah, let me get some of that. Let me see what's up with that.
I bought that from a Nepali store.
Okay.
And the guy told me, the owner, it was real nostalgic. So they used to eat this back in hometown. It's made in Nepal.
Let me give it a shot.
Okay, reach for it. Can you grab me one too? Yeah. Okay, speaking of childhood candy, can we talk about that a little bit? So what was your memory of childhood candy that you ate?
Childhood candy that I ate. Mm-hmm. There used to be these Asian, what do you call it?
I have to go pee so bad.
What?
I do.
You already peed.
I just drink all that.
Oh man, you got problems, girl.
Can we take a break?
We take a quick break, yeah.
Okay. All right, we're back from that bathroom break that I needed so badly because, all that water intake. One of my goals is to drink a gallon of water a day, and I've been crushing it. So,
congratulations.
Crushing it in the toilet too.
Peeing 3 times a day.
You do?
No, I'm saying congratulations to you, peeing 3 times a day.
3 times a day?
More than that, huh?
No, a lot more than 3 times a day.
Dang.
Yeah, so.
No, I'm only 3 times a day.
You need more water in your life, boy. Shoot.
I'm not thirsty though.
Your lips tell you something different. Weren't you just talking about your chapped lips?
Yeah, I know my lips are chapped.
Chapped
I'm not gonna
lips,
lie.
chapped hands, chapped feet. I mean, you need water in your life.
For real. This winter just be killing me.
You're thirsty. So thirsty.
Lips are hella thirsty.
All right. Well, we got some candy in my back pocket here.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's called lacto. Does that mean it's like lacto intolerant or lactose?
That's just probably.
It's milk. It's made with milk.
Oh, so okay, and then lacto fun. Ooh.
Let's give it a shot.
And it's Nepalese.
Nepali.
Nepali.
It's got like this creamy.
It kind of tastes like So when I was little. We always got White Rabbit, the Asian candy, with the film. Oh my gosh, that was the best. Kind of. No, it doesn't taste like that, but the richness kind of.
It's got that creamy flavor.
Creamy.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's harder. The other one was more chewier.
That's what she said.
Your nieces and nephews are here. What is it? Okay, so by the White Rabbit candy, can I talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So my childhood friend Hiang, she got bullied.
Bullied?
She got bullied on the bus to bring this kid. His name was.
You can't be calling people's names out, can you?
But I don't think. I'm not gonna say that.
We'll beat it out.
Okay.
We can beep out anything.
Okay. Well,
I just don't want you to be putting people's names out there.
but he wouldn't know.
You don't know that. He might come knocking on your door, like, girl, you talking shit about me?
Yeah.
Try to bully you next.
Well, he bullied her and was like, you better bring me a piece of candy. And then she was like, okay. So the next day, you know, like being back in the day, when you think about it, we didn't have rides to the grocery store. Like we had to wait until our parents went. So she comes on the bus and he's like, where's my candy? She goes here. And she hands him a white rabbit. And
he probably looked at that and was like, what the hell is this?
No, he opened it. I remember that. What the fuck is this? And I was like, we're like in elementary school, you know? So the bus is where we learned all the things. I mean, everything you could imagine, we learned it on the bus. And so anyway, so he had to taste a white rabbit and he was not happy about it at all. Like, and we're over here like, this is amazing stuff. Like you're missing out.
The white rabbit used to have this film on the inside you can eat. It's like a rice paper essentially that was on
it melts in your mouth. Yeah. So yeah, just when we were trying this candy, I just thought about what we had, you know. And actually speaking about the bus, you know how I'm like scared of everything when I was little? There's this kid, I'm not gonna say his name. He came up to me and he was asking a bunch of people things, and then it got to me and I was not ready for it. And he's like, are you a virgin? I was like, no. You know? Because the safest thing to say is no.
What kind of school bus was you on, girl?
A hood one. Like I'm telling you, man. Like they corrupted us.
Yeah, I mean that's a school bus.
Yeah, that is a school bus. I mean, our kids. Yes. I mean, shit. What did one of our kids come home and ask about?
This one, Sully was in 3rd grade. Came home. He goes, "Hey, Dad, what's a hooker?" I was like, fuck, dude. You kidding me? We're going to have this conversation right now?
Crazy.
I had no other way to explain to him. I go, son, it's just somebody who sells their body parts.
Body parts?
He was like literally.
He's a literal child.
A month later, he came back. He goes, Dad, like they cut their body parts and
very literal.
And sell it?
He's my child.
I was like, shit, man. I didn't even think how that was going to go, right?
Yeah. It's so funny you talk about Sullivan on the bus. So another funny story about him, he looks just like you. Acts a lot like me. And so right now, him and I just
That's because you raised him, right?
Yeah.
So like the first 2, that was like all you.
Yeah.
The second 2 was all me.
Yeah,
and
that
you can
is
tell
true.
in their characteristics.
Yeah, you can tell. Except for Campbell's a lot like me too, though. He's half and half, I think, out of all.
He's a little soft, but he's super independent.
Yes.
He knows what he's supposed to be doing.
Yes. Okay, Sully. Sully has no favorites, right? But
no, I don't have any favorites.
But, okay, so the funny story about Sullivan.
I just favor the one that does what they're supposed to be doing.
So the funny story about Sullivan when he's on the bus. Remember one time he got off the bus and he cried, and we're like, what happened? You know, and he was like, somebody like, you know, made me get out of my seat. And he goes, I didn't want to get out of my seat. And then so you were like, of course, the dad that you are, you're like, well, you better tell him that, you know, you need to stand up for yourself. And I'm over here.
Badass.
And I was like, Sully, like, think about it. Your son he's like shy. Doesn't know how to stand up for himself yet. We haven't practiced that yet, right? So then, of course, like for me, I was like, let's role play Sullivan. Let's like kind of figure out what when this happens again, what are you gonna do, right? So we taught him, right? And then when we went to go live on this action, Sully comes by, he's like, move out of my seat, and then he goes, ah! And I was like, oh my god, he's my child.
Poor child.
He's changed though. Like as a 13-year-old, he's.
I mean, he's getting through that. He's getting the testosterone now. You know what I mean?
He comes in thinking he's hard shit, like trying to beat up.
What it is when you become
He'll test you.
A teenager.
Mm-hmm. Like I can beat
he can test me all he wants. He already know he can catch those hands too. I might be a 41-year-old man, but I don't play no games.
That's so funny.
So.
Oh gosh, it's just it's so neat to go back and relive our childhood. And then I would love to interview our children to hear, well, not all of them yet, because I think some are still in their childhood, but like someone like Sullivan, since he's 13, I want to know like what he remembers from like when he was younger.
Yeah.
And his thoughts and his feelings.
He'll tell you, I don't remember anything until after 4 years old is when I woke up.
Really?
Yeah. Ask him.
That's crazy. So wait.
He says he doesn't remember anything as a young baby.
So how about you? What do you remember?
I don't remember a lot until we start talking about a bunch of stuff. But a lot, I remember a lot of stuff. I remember a lot of bad stuff.
That's crazy. See,
But we grew up different lives. Like, I mean, again, we have way different experience.
Yeah,
I
remember
I have a lot of brothers, okay? So a lot of older brothers. And let me remind you, I was born in the 80s, and they were teenagers and almost young adults in the 80s. So that means I've seen a lot of rock and roll, curly hair, tight clothes. I've seen a lot of females, and that's just how I grew up. That's because I seen a lot of that.
I only saw that on MTV.
No, I was living MTV. Like, you want to talk about, the real shit, like literally.
And I didn't see that. So that's so interesting. Yeah. And I thought I knew everything because I saw it on MTV and BET and
they lived that rock and roll life. I mean, it was wild. So
yeah. And
I had front row seats to it. It's crazy. But
and then you met me.
Yeah, then I met you and had to teach you the same things. That's what life is. There's real life shit out there that, again, goes back to perspective, right? Mm-hmm. We all have different perspectives in life. That's what shapes us. Yeah. You're different. Yeah. I'm different. And all we can do is share those experiences and hope that we can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's like the most amazing thing of it all is that, and it teaches you not to judge because like I've learned, I love you so much and I admire a lot of things about you.
Thank you. I love you too.
But it really, before I met you, I lived a judgmental life, and you came along in my life to help me unlearn a lot of things that I was taught, and I always say it to the kids. I'm like, you guys are so lucky. You guys get to have two different parents that is able to come together to really take a little bit of both of our childhood and our upbringing and duplicating that for our own families,
Absolutely.
And we in our family, we have a really open communication with our kids. It's always something that I've always strived for because I remember before we had kids, I said to you, hey, there's just two things that I want. I want to make sure that we sleep in the same room because growing up, I saw my parents, I saw my friends' parents that are Cambodian. They all lived or slept in separate rooms.
That must be a Cambodian thing.
I think it might be.
My parents.
Linda, did your parents sleep in the same room? See?
Yeah.
Your parents don't eat.
They don't? That's a first. Really?
You're kidding me. See?
My parents all slept together. I remember my parents, I would get up at about...
Your stories. I don't want to talk.
I'd get up at about 6, 5:30 in the morning. This is when cartoons were on Saturday, and I'd wake up and I'd always catch my parents talking in the bed. I think they were talking in the bed. So, but, I would, I'd wake up and I'd watch cartoons and my dad come out about probably on the Saturday about 7:30 and he'd be like, just get about his business and make coffee and whatnot. I think that's where I learned my habitual habits as well as,
because that's what you do.
Yeah, that's what I do. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because
that is interesting. I did not know that.
So like for me, I said that to Sully because I'm like, I don't know what it is. I definitely don't want to like live in separate rooms because I've seen that growing up. Mm-hmm. And then I said another thing was like, and when our kids get to that weird age, which I believe is like the teen years, I was like, can you please just make sure you talk to them and like don't like disregard them because it's like you guys can't like see eye to eye. This is so long ago.
Yo, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this candy in the middle of it has coconut.
That's what it tastes like. I think it's coconut that I'm tasting more so than anything.
Fire.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that sounds good.
But yeah, okay.
But yeah, so I remember saying that to you, like I want you to I want to make sure that you as a father, because that's all I saw in around my environment was that my brothers-in-law, my brothers, just all of a sudden just stopped talking to their kids. Mm-hmm. And I could not at the time, I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but I just knew that's what I was like, can you please be that man that like still talks to them, And then, as I've gotten older, I'm starting to understand that a lot of the men in our families, they didn't have that from their fathers, like my dad and stuff like that, right? And so like when you don't get that yourself, it's really hard to deliver that to your children, because you haven't been practicing that with your own
generational
father.
thing.
Yeah, it really is. And so for me, that was so important. And that's why like when my brothers would be like, oh, you do all this and do all that to you for me, and they're like, I never did that, taking so much pride in that.
Yeah.
When in reality, that someone has to come in and break that generational, cycle.
Well, I mean, that's what we're taught. At the end of the day, I think that, you're just taught certain things, and it has to do with not just generation. It has to do with also our culture of what, what's
Norms.
expected of men and women or kids or adults.
Yeah.
And that's just something that we've always carried into real life. But as you start to understand that you have a choice to do what you want to do, to make things change, to have a life that you want, then that's when you can make the changes and adjust as you go and see what works best for you. What works for me doesn't work for everybody.
Exactly.
And what works for everybody may not work for me. So that's how I live my life, is that I live what works best for me. And in turn, if other people can enjoy it and be around in that, in that same life, then hey, so be it. Great. We can all have a good time together. But that's the way I live my life, is that I'm going to do what I can to enjoy my life to the fullest for me. And then in turn, if other people feel the same way and they are also having their best life and we're all the energies together, then awesome. That's energy, right? Like literally everybody, you're doing your thing, you're happy. You're doing your thing, you're happy. I'm doing my thing, I'm happy, and we all come together and still be happy.
Yeah.
That's how I do real estate. Same thing.
Yeah.
I don't walk away from if both parties walk away from a transaction, they're both happy, then guess what? We just had a successful transaction. So
exactly.
That's exactly how I feel with everything else.
Yeah.
You walk away from your conversation, you walk away from whatever it is. Both
feeling light,
happy.
And even sitting here when we first started this podcast, I was before we got started, I was so excited, had all these stories to talk about and all these topics. Then I
told her to stop talking or she's going to run out of things to talk about.
Then I get him at the seat and then put the headphones on. I was like, I feel like the TV's on me now. But it's so crazy. Like after here, just talking, it feels so natural. It feels so light. It feels amazing. It feels like, it just feels, I don't know how to get this.
Feels good.
Feels good. Yeah, it feels really good to be able to open up and kind of get to know you a little bit more, where you come from. And then obviously, I kind of am learning about myself as well.
Married
too,
19 years and you're still changing. Well, no,
married 17
years, sorry.
July.
Yeah, I just lose count. You know what I mean? You get this far along in a relationship. It's literally just a relationship.
I remember you said this too, because your mom passed away. When you were 19.
No, I was 20. I was 20 years old.
Oh, okay. So then what you said was not true then, because you said my mom was a mom longer to you than your mom was.
Yeah, then she was alive.
Yeah, that's
very,
not true then.
very close.
Very, very close. Yeah. So
very close.
Yeah. So no, I am enjoying this session.
Thanks for the candy. This fire. Fire.
Yeah, I think we're good with time.
Okay.
I think the first episode.
Should we say bye to anything?
Yeah, you guys want to plug any social medias or websites?
You can go first.
Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in to our very first podcast. I hope that you were inspired, that you were able to relate to us, and stay tuned for more episodes. In the meantime, if you want to go to our Instagram, what is that thing called? Handle? The handle. The handle is the Gardening of Storytelling.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Was it the Gardening of Storytelling or the garden?
I don't know. You made it.
The Garden of Storytelling. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the garden. Yeah, I was a little confused. I thought I misheard it, so that's why I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So it's the garden. What have I been saying?
At the Garden of Storytelling.
Yeah, so it's at the Garden of Storytelling.
Yep. And then, guys, I hope you guys can just find some value in what we're discussing, and that you guys can relate this some way to your life, and that you can take away something that you didn't know or you do know and can add on. I mean, shoot us a DM. I mean, you can hit me up on Just Sully as well on my IG or the Garden of Storytelling, and we can discuss some more and go over topics. I mean, I'd love to have some questions asked of us so that we can maybe discuss this on the next podcast.
Yeah, we'll have everything in the description.
Yeah.
And the email that people could contact us. So.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Well,
Awesome.
have a lovely day, y'all.
Yes. All right. Bye.